Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving out to the guy who allows me to come to you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there today? I appreciate you for tuning in. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. That's what we do here every Saturday morning here on the Speak On It show. Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. James Battle. Appreciate you. Good morning, James Battle. Let's touch on this for a minute. Last week, before we get into these formalities, last week, we had a barbershop talk. Last week, during the barbershop talk, it was about male vulnerability. If you haven't watched it, go back and pull it up on YouTube, pull it up on Facebook under R.W. Coolins. Watch, listen, share, subscribe, do what you do with all the other shows. But what I want to say, it was a good conversation. Got a lot of good feedback on the conversation we had, a lot of good topics we touched on about male vulnerability and how we, as men, need to be more open, how our family members and those around us need to allow us, allow us to be more open and vulnerable as far as how we feel about things, what we're going through, how we express ourselves. All those things were touched on in different ways. And we had four panelists, as we always do. We had OT, we had Mr. Cheney, Mr. McCurdy, and Mr. Battle. So I appreciate those coming on to talk about the male vulnerability aspect. And we're going to have some more in-depth conversations like that as we continue on, trying to figure out a perfect slot to put that in, looking at maybe the third or fourth Saturday of every month doing the barbershop talk, add new panelists, put new perspectives in there, those type things. So tune in, keep an eye out on that. And if you get a chance, go back and listen to that. Good conversation. Very, very good conversation. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get these formalities out the way. rwcoolins.com website needs to be updated. Don't judge me. Just judge my time. Don't judge me. Judge my time. It'll be updated here shortly. I'm working on that now. I got to get in there and do some things. Call in number 844-904-2665. 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask is say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as family. Once you call in, once you chime in, once you like or subscribe, you're part of the Speak On It show family. That's what we like here. That's what we ask for. Everybody, please be involved in what's going on. And I want to put this caveat out there too. With the barbershop talk, with anything we talk about on the show, we, as far as me, anybody I have on the show, we are not the end all to be all. Let's just start there. We're not the end all be all. We're not the experts in everything. We're speaking on our life experiences and what we know to be true from the way we see it. That's what we do here. That's what it's all about. That's why it's called the Speak On It show. Speak on how you feel about these situations. That's all it is. That's all it's about. That's all it's about. So, let's go and jump in this. It's a straight talk, no chaser Saturday, y'all. Straight talk, no chaser. You know how you used to get your liquor? You go to the bar, say, give me some cognac. You say, what you want with that? Just straight up. No rocks, no mixer. Just give me the yak. Give me the yak. That's all I need. Give me the yak. So this morning, let's start off with this, because I know a lot of people have seen this and a lot of people are paying attention to it. And I know y'all get tired of me talking about this. This is on the political side. It's on the political side. And this week, we seen Donald Trump, former President Donald Trump's lawyers, say that they are unable to find this document that they say he discussed in a recording to other folks. So that's supposedly, there's a recording going around about Donald Trump talking about this document he has that shows an attack plan or a war plan against Iran. It's been in the news. They've been talking about here these documents, everything. Everybody knows about the classified document. This is one of them that they're talking about specifically. But now the lawyers are saying that they can't find this document. In conjunction with the NARA, this is the National Association of Records Administration, that we talk about, not the NRA, the NARA. But they're saying that they can't find this document that he was bragging about in his audio recording, as well as the fact that it wasn't turned over and it wasn't found, or they don't have it since they did the raid on Mar-a-Lago. Now I'm going to say this, and you feel how you want. For me, from the outside looking in, for this document about Iran to be allegedly not being able to be found, why is it that we continue to ask questions about the lower level people that do this? Like, let's just go here. The one up in New Hampshire that was selling the documents and putting them on the gaming, streaming, and everything like that. There was this big thing about the documents he had and what he was doing with them. I'm going to put this out there, and you chime in if you want. You may agree, you may not. But what I want to know is, how is this person who was the president of the United States getting the benefit of the doubt for a document that they can't find, that there's been no discussion of whether he sold it? Let me say it again, of whether he sold it to someone for financial gain. Let's be real here. This is a man who we know and have seen the actions of him not being on the level of where he should be, feels that everything and everyone should bow down to him, whatever he wants should happen. And then you got his minions that follow him that feel the same way. But this document that deals with an attack plan on Iran that they cannot find, the question would be, where is it? How did it get lost? And whose hands is it in? Are they in right now? But he was authorized in his eyes to take these documents, unclassify them, and keep them, is what he says. And then you have those around him and those that support him continually saying that, yeah, he can do that. Okay. For me, and from what I know to be true, this is considered espionage. This is considered to be a traitor if, allegedly, he has sold these documents or he has shown these documents to someone who is not supposed to see these documents. I'm just putting it out there. You draw from your conclusions from what you want to draw your conclusions from. But this is what it says. Trump's chances of going to prison, Trump's chances of going to prison have skyrocketed as a new bombshell reveals that Trump's lawyers failed to find and return a classified U.S. military document that included Iran war plans described by Trump on a tape in 2021. But it gets even worse. The source says that prosecutors made clear to Trump's attorneys after issuing the subpoena that they specifically wanted the Iran document he talked about on tape, as well as any material referencing classified information, like meeting notes, audio recordings, or copies of the document that may still be in Trump's possession. The fact that Trump's team was unable, watch this now, the fact that Trump's team was unable to produce the document has special counsel Jack Smith and his investigators suspicious that Trump may have used the document to benefit financially, or even worse, has been turned over to a foreign adversary. Prosecutors issued a subpoena shortly after asking a Trump aide before a federal grand jury about the audio recording of a July 2021 meeting at Trump's golf course in Bedminster, New Jersey. On the recording, Trump acknowledges he held on to a classified Pentagon document about a potential attack on Iran. Trump's legal team was unable to locate the document Trump mentions on the tape, the source say, and it remains unclear if it was ever returned to the government or where it is now. And this is the person and his minions around him who say that he was doing such a great job, who has gone against all the status quo of what the Constitution, the amendments, the president of the United States stands for in this country, the democracy, the freedoms, and all, so on and so on and so forth. But if my name was replaced in Donald Trump's name in this incident that we're speaking of right here, or you, or anyone you know, There will be no question about what your intentions were. There will be no question about you using these documents for financial gain. There will be no question on what they would do, and they would sentence you to the full extent of the law. But with this, they got to go through all this song and dance, I'm going to call it. When they know, they know exactly what happened to these documents. James Battle, and don't want to reelect him. Insanity is a real thing. Glad you said that. Battle, you be reading my mind, man. We got to stop being so connected here. So let me break you down. Let me break down to you, in conjunction with former President Donald Trump, who are the Republican nominees at this time that threw their hats in the ring to become president. Now, mind you, when I name these people, some of you'll recognize, some you won't. I'll give you a little blurb of what I know to be true of who they are. But in the same breath, none of these people, none of these other candidates for Republican nomination to be president has spoken out against the actions, the investigations, or anything that deals with Donald Trump. However, they plan to beat him to get the nomination, but they refuse to call out the corruption and so on and so forth that they know, just like we know, has been reported in the news that he allegedly did this, and we say allegedly because, it hadn't been proven yet. However, allegedly is used nowadays just to say, I don't want to get sued. So I'm going to use it too, allegedly. So here are the nominees. Donald Trump, who announced way back that he was going to run for president again because he was worried about, he thought this would protect him from all these court cases that he had coming up, the investigations that we know about. So you got Donald Trump, number one. Then you got Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis of Florida, the governor of Florida, who is banning books, going against Disney, the Don't Say Gay bill, all the different things that you've heard about going on in Florida. This is a nominee for the Republican Party's president. These are people putting their names in the hat. Nikki Haley. Now, mind you, Ron DeSantis has been saying some things about Donald Trump. However, he's not gone and dug in deep. Why? Because Ron DeSantis backed Donald Trump when he ran for president and while he was president in his first term. So what they're, and just put this caveat out there, all the names I'm going to name are more concerned about losing the Donald Trump voters if they speak against him. If he doesn't get the nominee, they want to keep those close vests to them. So they're not going to speak out until they have to speak out. It's all a game, y'all. Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, and she was a foreign ambassador under former President Donald Trump. And now she's running, she threw her hat in the ring to run for president, and she's throwing some little subliminal messages out there, but nothing concrete about the corruption or anything going on, because she was a part of it while his cabinet was in office. Tim Scott, we talked about this last week. Tim Scott, South Carolina senator, threw his hat in the ring, brought up, I don't remember what year he brought up, but it had nothing to do with him being a black man running for the Republican nomination or anything like that. And if you go, like I said last week, and everybody tried to talk me down, but if you get a chance, go look at his nomination video and you'll get it for yourself. Mike Pence, former vice president that Donald Trump and his rogue people wanted to hang because he would not go along with overthrowing the election. So he's throwing his hat in the ring. And he has not spoken out against former President Donald Trump. with the corruption or with these documents or anything like that. Now, mind you, Mike Pence was just, there's no more investigation on the documents he had. He's been found not guilty, or there's no substance to whatever documents they found. So that's been gone. And now Donald Trump is pissed off because why are they still investigating me if they're not investigating Mike Pence anymore for the documents he had? Maurice Wigfall, what's up, my brother? Appreciate you. Chris Christie. Chris Christie, New Jersey. Oh boy, some of these people in here just got across the bear because they didn't get their way during the time Donald Trump was in office. Because Chris Christie was jogging for position, but he could never get it. He could never get into the cabinet. He wanted to be the DOJ. He wanted to be all kind of different positions, but Donald Trump never offered it to him. So now he is speaking out loudly. He's about the only one speaking out very loudly, to a certain extent, about Donald Trump and what corruption and all this. And he's running for president, to put his name in that. Now, mind you, remember he was running for president last time too. Be aware of that. Maurice Wigfall, they were scared of him being 45. Yeah, and this is the thing. Well, let's just go to the last one before I go into there. John Bolton. Y'all know John Bolton, the one with the big mustache, and the one who they say is a war hawk and all this kind of stuff. What are they talking about? He put his hat in the ring. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute, because I mentioned these documents about Iran. And they say they're missing. And Donald Trump was bragging about how he had them in Bedminster in a meeting and all this kind of stuff. But if you recall what we know about John Bolton has always been a strong proponent of going to war against Iran. Let me say that again. John Bolton has always been a strong proponent about going to war against Iran. That's one of his main things that he always talks about, one of the main sticking points he always seems to harp on. And it's just ironic to me that this document that is missing deals with Iran. But at the same time, John Bolton is speaking out against what Donald Trump did, what he said, and all these different things or whatever, to a certain extent. And I keep saying to a certain extent that they're speaking out. Because what we know to be true is if you really feel that strongly about somebody's opinions or that strongly about somebody who you don't feel is worthy, we don't hesitate and we don't muzzle ourselves to express how we feel about that person. But as Maurice Wigfall mentioned, he said they are scared of 45, which is Donald Trump. I don't know if it's the fact that they're scared or, watch this now, or by going against Donald Trump, by speaking against Donald Trump, because of the love affair that certain people have for Donald Trump, that they're more concerned rather than scared of the fact that they may not get those constituents to come to the voting booth if they get the nomination. So you can say scared, you can say concerned, you can say politically adjusting or manipulating or whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, all the tap dancing around saying exactly how they feel deals with the fact that they don't want to lose the constituents, the voting population that is pro-Trump, MAGA, however you want to talk about it. And when I say that, I'm talking about the ones that did the insurrection on the Capitol, the white supremacists that walked on in Washington, D.C. on Mother's Day with the tiki torches, Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, all the influences that they have, all the influence that they have is what these people are scared of. As far as losing, as Battle says, they are scared of losing his base voters. That's exactly what it is. They're worried about them not deciding to vote Republican because they talked about Donald Trump. Let's just call it what it is. And while we're on that, let's bring this up into play. Because I want everybody to hear this and hear this clear. When we talk about the Republican Party, And I talk about all these nominees that I've just mentioned that are in the race right now for the Republican nomination. And what we know is that Joe Biden said he will be running for a second term. And everybody, let's transition to Joe Biden for a minute, and then I'll get back to my point. But with Joe Biden, you know, he took a couple stumbled up the stairs, stumbled on a sandbag the other day, and fell and hit his head. And he's 80 years old. They say his cognitive skills ain't there, and all these different things they want to say negative about Joe Biden, which he's 80 years old. We all can only hope and pray that God will bless us to see 80 years old and have the issues of maybe tripping up a stair or tripping over a sandbag on a stage, or when I respond to something, it's not as quickly, and maybe you want me to get it out a little quicker when I turn 80 years old. We can only pray that we get to that point at 80 years old, we still have and are able to function as Joe Biden. Now, with that being said, do we feel safe and secure with him being president at 80 years old? Depends on who you ask. But I'll ask it in this manner. Would you rather have an 80-year-old, excuse me, y'all, would you rather have an 80-year-old who is proven in politics, who is looking out for the people in the processes that, and I'm not saying he's doing everything right. Let's clear that up. Let's be real. There's certain things that he could do better. Him and Kamala Harris, his vice president. However, when you look at the big picture of what people are doing or what these politicians are doing, if you look at what Joe Biden's done as far as trying to take care of the masses rather than the few, you have to take that into account when you talk about his age and what he's been able to accomplish since he's been in office compared to where we were at in the last administration. Now, with that, you have these nominees that are coming up that they've mentioned, and then you have Joe Biden on the Democratic side. From all the things that you know, or that I know you're going to go back and research, hint, hint, of the names that are running for the Republican nomination before you just decide to vote Republican or Democrat. Once you do your research, I want you to tell me, which one do you think has the interest of the people as a whole, not the pockets of white supremacists, not the pockets of the rich, not the pockets of this and that, the masses, that's going to help the masses, to try to help the people that need the help the most? Who are you going with? And you can say what you want. I am not one here to sit here and tell you, oh, vote Democrat, oh, vote Republican. I'm not one to do that. What I'm telling you to do is research and read and see who has your best interest at hand for where you sit in your life financially right now, and make your decision. Because if you pay attention, I'm glad you said that, Val. Larry Elder, another brother, African-American, black man, who's deciding to put his hat in the ring for the Republican nomination. And if you go back, you can pull videos up of what he was saying when he was running for trying to be, I think it was the governor or the mayor of LA or something like that. Just go listen to Larry Elder. You'll get a better idea. But what I'm saying is this. No one is saying, and I've never said, that either party is going to do 100% of what we need or what you're asking for or what you need in your life to contribute to your livelihood. Never have I said that, never will I say that. Because there's special interest that drives what they do when they do what they do. What I'm telling you is to pay attention to what they say. Let me say that again. Pay attention to what they say. Pay attention of how they say it. And then pay attention to who they're saying it to. Because here's the thing. If you sit back and watch some of these people in the Republican Party, as well as some Democrats, let's just be real, they say they're dog whistles. They're not dog whistles. They're saying exactly how they feel when they say what they say. But if you want to find out exactly what's going to happen with your livelihood, you need to redo your research. And I know the election is not until 2024. But we don't need to wait until 2024 to start talking about this and start paying attention. The insurrection on the Capitol should be assigned. The documents that are missing by this individual allegedly that he took should be assigned. That they don't feel the rules and regulations pertain to them. When you talk about Ron DeSantis in Florida, look at everything that's going on in Florida, from everything from the book bans to the diversity training to all the different things you can think about that deal with race relations in Florida, and ask yourself, is this a person that I want not only to be the governor of Florida, but to be the president of the United States? Do you feel comfortable having Mike Pence as the president of the United States after what went on with him being vice president when they tried to overthrow the Capitol and wanted him to go against the will of the people? But at the same time, while they were trying to go against the will of the people and wanted him to go against the will of the people, he is yet still, though his life was threatened by the man that he was second under. He was the vice president to Donald Trump, and the president of the United States put your life in danger. And now you want to be president. Why? Why do you want to be president? And then the question comes in is, if you want to be president and you feel that strongly about it, then speak out about the fact that the president of the United States that you served under as a vice president wanted you dead, wanted you to go against the Constitution, wanted you to go against everything that has been written in the history of the United States of America for his will. And now you want to be president. You want us to go to the polls and put you in a presidential position when you couldn't even speak up about the injustice that was being done towards you and your family, as well as all those people in the Capitol, by the person you served under. And you want me to go and pull a lever to put you in that position. Can't see it. Can't see it. James Battle, Republican is elected, and I'm seriously worried about our democracy. They haven't shown that they care about protecting it. Not at all. And here's the other part that people don't want to pay attention to. They have control of the House of Representatives. They don't control the Senate. But if you look at the vote that came up for and what they talked about with the debt ceiling, as far as raising the debt ceiling, they didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it because they wanted to hurt the president that sits in office right now because he's a Democrat. They did not say that they didn't want to raise the debt ceiling specifically because of, the money is going to pay down the road or this, that. They specifically said they didn't want to raise the debt limit because it would harm Joe Biden for re-election. They didn't think and take into account all the senior citizens or all those people who are collecting Medicare, Social Security, all the veterans out there, all the military members out there. They did not take into account anything or any effect that it would have on them by the debt ceiling being in default and how it would affect paychecks and checks being sent to those people who rely on those payments. Their main focus was, do this. Let's let the debt ceiling run out. Let's let it run out. And then that way we have something to talk about against the president when it comes time for election in 2024. That's their main goal. That's their main focus. Has nothing to do with you, has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with the masses. It has to do with trying to sabotage the world. Watch this now. Not only the United States economy, but the world economy for political gain. Let that marinate for a minute. You're willing, as an elected official, to allow not only the economy in the United States, but the economy would be affected around the world because you're more concerned about a powerful position than you are the welfare of a nation and the world. And you want me, someone who struggles with payments or has struggled with payments or has issues financially or anything you can think about, to vote you into office when you have a axe to grind only because you want the power, not because you want to take care of the masses. That's what our political establishment has come to. Has nothing to do with these people getting in office and trying to take care of the people in this United States, from the brokest, and I won't say the broke, from the minimal earner to the rich and all those in between. Has nothing to do with your welfare, has nothing to do with your livelihood. It has all to do with the power for them to be able to do what they want to do when they want to do it, no matter who it affects. And we continue to go to the polls without paying attention, without listening to what they're saying, and just putting these people back in office that do not have your best interest in hand. Yeah, they came up with an agreement on the debt ceiling till 2025. So think about this, depending on who the president is at the time in 2025, it's going to depend on how this drags out again and again. Think about how many times we've shut the government down because of disagreements, not politically, but power-wise. If you go back and look through history, through the last times we've shut the government down, it had nothing to do with what the actual politics or the legislation was. It had to do with who was in control and how they felt about that power at the time. And they wanted to instill and show that I got enough power to shut this down if you don't do it the way I want you to do it. And we're right there again. And it's becoming a cycle. It's becoming a cycle. And everybody can say, oh, well, Obama was this, President Obama was no different than any other president you had in there. A lot of the times we tend to gravitate to somebody we like because of their personality. But Obama, and I'll say it this way, President Obama sits in a multi-million-dollar home, but we still got people sleeping in the gutters. Still got people sleeping in the streets. He's a multi-millionaire because he was president. Most of these politicians are multi-millionaires because they were in political positions, not because of what they did for the people. And we need to remember that. We need to make sure that we understand that when we're going out here voting for these people. Pearl Borum, good morning. Wake up, people. The writing is on the wall. When we hear, thank you, Pearl. When you've heard me say it, because you hear people say it, white supremacy is the biggest threat to our democracy. White supremacy is the biggest threat to our democracy. And there is truth to that. But at the same time, we concentrate on white supremacy being the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, the KKK, and all these different organizations that are out there doing the marching and doing all these things. But what we don't understand and what we need to pay more attention to is when we talk about white supremacy is all about power and control. So when we say white supremacy, we also got to look at the people that are in these political positions who may not be the ones walking with the tiki torches, may not be the ones walking, talking about you will not replace us and all these other things that you may hear that the little minions, the soldiers, as they say, are out here marching about. They have financial backing from somebody. They have legislative backing from someone. So when we say white supremacy is the biggest threat to our democracy, don't minimize it to the foot soldiers. Let's just be honest. Do not minimize this white supremacy to the foot soldiers. You got to take it up in here to generals, the secretaries of defense, the leaders that we elect into these offices are the puppet masters in all this. You say what you want. You can agree, you can disagree. But if you sit back and think about it, it will reveal itself. Some of y'all need to read more. Stop listening to the propaganda and all. Read. Stop turning on Fox News, CNN, MSNBC. Read. These things ain't just happening today. These things have been going on for a long time. What you've seen, and I'm going to use this correlation, take it how you want to take it. What you've seen on January 6th at the Capitol wasn't the first time anything like that's happened. The reason that, and this is my opinion, take it for how you take it. The insurrection on the Capitol was nothing more than a reenactment of what they did in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at Black Wall Street, what they did in Rosewood, what they did in all the locations that African-American Black folks were being prosperous financially through history. And what they did then was to overthrow, burn down, take control, kill, mutate, do whatever they had to do to get control back over a people. And how did they do that? By taking them out financially. What they did at the Capitol was just another demonstration of the foot soldiers doing the work for the white supremacist generals. And when I say generals, I'm not talking about military. I'm talking about the military sense. Because somebody's a puppet master in all this. Many, many puppet masters in all this. But we don't pay attention to it because we get so caught up in what rapper's better than this rapper, or what comedian is better than this comedian. We get caught up in this reality TV stuff. And we're not paying attention to the reality that we're losing everything we fought for. Whether you're talking about our freedoms, whether you're talking about what's in legislation, whether you're talking about the freedom for you to go to the polls, your voting rights, the books in classrooms. Come on, y'all. Come on. We're talking about books in classrooms that they're removing because it says anything that says anything about reflecting back to the injustices that were done during slavery needs to be taken out of classrooms. But they're masking it with the fact of they're not only doing it about us and our history and what's been done to us in this country, but they're also throwing in the gay LGBTQ community to make it seem like it's not just one issue that they're dealing with. Take the glasses off, y'all. Pay attention. Pay attention. Kamala Harris this week. She announces the administration's new actions to eliminate racial bias in home appraisals. Remember I reported on here that, there was Black folks trying to sell their homes and they're lowering the price of the homes and giving them appraisals that don't equal the amount of the home, $500,000 less than what the home is worth because it's a Black family and all this. And now Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris announces that the administration's new action to eliminate racial bias in home appraisals. Why do you need that? Why do you need to come up with some kind of action to eliminate people minimizing the value of an African American's home, not because the home is not worthy, but because they don't feel he's worthy or she's worthy of having a home of that value? And we, as a country, let's go here. We as a country have to come up with some kind of legislation to say this is wrong. Really? So you got to put on paper. You had to put on paper something that we all know to be true. But then at the same time, they're going to reckon back to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words of, man should be judged not by his color of his skin, but the content of his character. But you got people out here minimizing the value of a home that someone has worked hard to buy, invested in, and devalue it by $500,000 because of the color of their skin. piece of paper. A piece of paper. This didn't just start yesterday. This didn't just start yesterday. See, we're talking about the ones that are selling their homes. What about the gentrification that's going on in our communities? Same thing. You got somebody who will go to the bank and try to get a loan to build, to fix up the house, to make it more modern and everything. And they get denied for the loan. So what do they have to do? They end up having to sell. And they sell the house for pennies on a dollar compared to the person that buys the house for pennies on a dollar, and then put $1 million worth of building structure and changing things in the house. And now it's $1 million home on the same street that we grew up on, that our family grew up on, that our grandparents grew up on, and the house was only worth $200,000 to you when you sold it. But when they get in there and do their renovations because the bank gave them a loan, now it's worth $1.5 million, $2 million on the same street. Watch this. The same streets in our neighborhoods and in our communities that they were scared to walk down because of who lived there in one time. So you telling me a neighborhood or a community that they felt so threatened about, they are now buying up and renovating homes that are worth millions of dollars. But at one time when we owned that community, when we lived in that community, when we owned the homes on that community, we couldn't even get a street sweeper to sweep the streets. Think about that for a minute. The same community that these $1 million homes that they're renovating or turning into $1 million homes in your neighborhood, in your community that you grew up in, your grandmother grew up in, wouldn't even get a street sweeper to come down the street. But with gentrification, they redid sidewalks. They done made river walks next to it. That same river that used to overflow and flood people's houses now is a river walk for the community that is taking over. But they wouldn't put a dime into the infrastructure when you lived there, when your grandparents lived there. But we got to get put on a piece of paper, some kind of legislation that appraisals have to be done on the up and up. Wow. And then they want to get more African American blacks to become appraisers. So is that going to change the system? Because we've seen where they integrate us into systems where they say, oh, well, we need more black. Look at the police. We have police chiefs, but police brutality still exists against us. And sometimes by us. Memphis. Come on, y'all. Case in point. Adrian Murray, Mississippi, 11 years old. His mother said, Adrian, call 911 because one of her children's fathers, one of her children's fathers, came to the house and was irate and acting up. So she told Adrian, call 911, get the police over here because he's acting a fool. Adrian did what his mother said. He went and called 911. Police showed up and said, everybody come out the house with your hands up. Adrian, 11 years old, who called the police for his mother, walked out the house with his hands in the air, followed all the commands, Pop shot him in the chest. Shot him in the chest, no weapon. No weapon. Shot him in the chest on the steps of his house where his mother told him to call the man that shot him to protect them. And at 11 years old, he shot. He ended up with a collapsed lung, amongst other things that will ail him for the rest of his life. Because he called the people who were to protect and serve. And this is what the young man said at 11 years old. He says, sometimes I can see myself laying inside the coffin. Those are my thoughts at night, my only ones. Sometimes I think people are watching me, but my main thought is me dead inside the coffin. 11 years old. See, we talked about this a little bit last week about vulnerability. You're told as an 11-year-old to call the police, call 911 to protect you and your mother from a situation that may get out of hand. And the people you call come and shoot you. You ain't did nothing wrong except call for help. And the police officer shoots you, an 11-year-old kid. No weapon, no purpose, following instructions. How often do you hear this in the white community? I'm gonna say it again. How often do you hear this happening in the white community? OT. And they even try to stop you from buying the home. Well, yeah, that's a whole nother story. Big Al, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Deborah Harris, good morning. Good morning. How often do you hear that in the white community, y'all? Somebody help me. Because here's another one. That was a police officer that did this, that did that. Here's another one. Cyrus Carmack Belton, Columbia, South Carolina. 14 years old. He was murdered by a 58-year-old convenience store owner, Rick Chow. Why? Because they said he was stealing. He had 4 bottles of water in his hand. They said he put the 4 bottles of water back, but they still accused him of stealing. So he left the store. He ran out of the store with nothing, didn't steal anything. The son chases him. Mr. Chow's son chases him. Mr. Chow chases as well with a gun. The young man fell. The son says he's got a gun. He gets up to start running again. The father shoots him in the back, kills him. For allegedly stealing 4 bottles of water that he didn't steal in Columbia, South Carolina. Let me ask you again. When you ever heard anything about that in the white community? Now, Mr. Chow, I'm gonna give you his nationality. Mr. Chow looks Asian. I'm not sure if he's Chinese. They didn't say, but he's Asian. I've seen the picture. But you know, Mr. Chow is protected by, you know, that thing of you know, the what they call it when the Asian when they were beating Asians up during COVID and all that kind of stuff. The anti-Asian hate bill. That's what he's protected by in his normal everyday life. But Cyrus Carmack Belton is not protected by anything except family and friends. Now, Mr. Chow felt that he had license to do whatever he wanted to this young man. Because this is the part that there were 2 other incidents like this with Mr. Chow. Mr. Chow shot someone before for allegedly shoplifting. No charges. Mr. Chow pulled a gun on someone. No charges. Now he has killed someone. So it got to the point of him killing someone before they get to the point of holding him accountable. And in all 3 of these cases, there was an alleged shoplifting. Alleged. Now you have a 14-year-old that's dead. because he allegedly stole something. Not that he did. Not that he harmed anybody. And did he have a gun? They say, yes, he did have a gun. But they never mentioned anything else about the gun that Mr. Cyrus Carmack Belton, the 14-year-old, had. They just said that the son said he had a gun. When they found Mr. Cyrus Carmack Belton dead, there was a gun close by. So now I question, are we sure that was his gun? Because they said they found a gun close by. Because all you have to remember, all this is put together after the fact by the words and the story of the perpetrators. Because Mr. Cyrus Carmack Belton is not allowed to tell his side. Ain't no video. But he had a gun, is what they say. Do we know the gun was his? And let me speak to the ladies real quick. Men too. I'm transitioning without the transition today. Y'all bear with me. I'm on a roll. Let me talk to y'all real quick, ladies. And I don't want to minimize this young lady's life. But there's a young lady named Jackie O who died from a surgery, a mommy makeover surgery. Let's just call it what it is, an enhancement. Something, tummy tucks and all that type of thing that goes into play. Now, this doctor who did the procedure, that she died under his care, he's been sued multiple times by former patients. Let's make sure we put that in the equation. But for all the ladies out there who have some thought that they're not good enough, that they don't look good enough, they're not worthy, any of the things that are negative that you may think about, stop. Stop. You know, anytime that you decide to go under the knife for any type of surgery, there's the potential for something to go wrong. Always the potential, because you're going against something that your body, whether it's, I mean, I've had hip replacement. I mean, no matter what the situation, sorry, y'all. But no matter what the situation is, anytime you're going under the knife, there's the chance that something could go wrong. Why take that chance to enhance something that is of you with your life? When I seen this, I don't know who she is. I just know she has 3 children by DC Young Fly, which is a comedian who I know who he is. But we've heard these stories too many times. This one is just highlighted because she's something like a celebrity. I see celebrity women, cheeks done, noses done, BBLs, anything you can think about. But they go under the knife to get these things changed. All of us look in the mirror and see flaws. We all have some type of flaw that we are not comfortable with. We use other things to mask it and everything like this. It's normal. That's who we are. We become vain about who we are and how we look to other folks. So when we look in the mirror, we don't see the beauty that was bestowed in our greatness by God from birth. We see what we need to change about us for everybody else. We should not have to have someone die to have this conversation. We should not have to have someone lose their life over vanity. I'm just going to call it what it is, over vanity. Now, if this is what you choose to do, that's up to you. But then you have to step back for a minute and ask yourself, when did we stop loving who we are for who we are? When are we going to get to the point of accepting ourselves for what we look like, what our decisions are? I don't want to seem that I'm minimizing, as I said, this young lady's death. I'm not trying to do that. But what I'm trying to do is open the eyes to the point of love yourself. If you have a child, let's just be honest here. And we all know this. Any woman that's ever had a child knows this. When you decide to have a child, your body will never be the same. There's a reason for that. It's not supposed to be the same. So why go somewhere to have someone change your body from what it's supposed to be after a pregnancy to make you look like something you are not? I, and let me talk to the men for a minute, because men are the biggest proprietors of this rage or these decisions that a lot of women are making. It's just to put the cards on the table where they belong. Men, we got to get out of this habit of only being visual creatures towards our women. We got to get out of this habit of only seeing our women for what their body looks like rather than what their mind is all about. Don't get me wrong. We all love to see a woman with a nice body. Let's just be real. That's who we are as men. But damn it, when we see these things happening, where we got women out here going all the way overseas to get BBLs, tummy tucks, because it's cheaper. It's the main reason they're going is because it's cheaper. We have to sit back and evaluate what we're doing in society as men to make our women feel less than. Now, mind you, I'm not saying all these women are only going because of the opinions of men. Let's just be real. But we play a part in it. And we got to own up to the part that we play. We got to own up to the part that we play in these women making these decisions. I'm not saying that you driving her to the clinic, but your actions towards her may be pushing her closer to the knife than you think. Let's just be real about it. Let's just be real about it. I'm not, and like I always tell you, I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of the same things that I'm talking about. But once it hits home, it's too late. We got to make these changes, man. We got to be better. We got to start treating our women better. I know we've all made mistakes in the past. We've treated women wrong. We've either cheated and done whatever we've done. But it only has to start today to change that. To change that. Prayers and condolences out to her family, her children, and DC Young Fly, her fiance, or whatever status they were in. I come on, y'all. Come on. Let's get into it. Mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. Year 2023. Being a better you. Getting back to being you. No resolutions, just lifestyle changes to become a better you. Not through surgeries, and being a better you for who you are and who you know you are. Today's mind, body, and soul is just something simple that I found that really resonated with me this week. And it says, if you do right, no one remembers. If you do wrong, no one forgets. If you do right, no one remembers. But if you do wrong, no one forgets. You know, it's funny because when you say this, it can resonate with all of us. We've all had people that'll come back, see us from years and years and years ago, maybe haven't seen us in a while. But as soon as they see you and you start talking, man, it's good to see you. How you been doing, man? But then it transitions to, man, you remember when you did, and whatever they're talking about you did is negative. They will remember anything negative you've done in your life when they see you after 10, 15, 20 years. They start off like they're concerned about what your welfare is now, how you doing, how you feeling, and all this, but then it changes to, man, you remember when you did this? Or, man, why'd you do it? People do not forget your wrongs. And I've said this on this show before, and I'll say it again. When people don't forget your wrongs, or when people want to highlight your wrongs and put your wrongs on Front Street and tell everybody what you're doing wrong, I'm a proponent, a true proponent, to let people know what you did right. Yell it from the rooftops. I said it before, I said it again, yell it from the rooftop, because people are always going to take the negative about you and highlight it. Highlight your greatness. And it's not in a braggadocious way. It's not that you're bragging about it, but damn it, if they're going to hold the wrongs against you, make sure they know the rights. Because everybody is not going to magnify your rights. Everybody's not going to tell everybody everything that you've done great in your life. Hey, let's just think about it. There's one time in your life, what's that in your life? There's one time that people will actually stand up and tell some type of truth about you. And it's not the whole truth. It's the church version of truth. And that's when you lay their casket sharp. You'll get people that'll stand up there and talk about how good a person you were, how great a person you were, everything you ever done for anybody, all the things that they should have told you while you were standing upright. They have no problem expressing when you casket sharp. And then when you go out to that car with the trunk open and get that little shot of liquor, because, you know, at the repast, that's where all the people standing there. And you go out there and then you hear about all the other stuff. How you wasn't this, how you had other children, how you was this, and you cheated, you did this, you did that. That's where you hear the truth, the real truth about the negative part that they don't want to forget. But in that church, while you lay in that casket sharp, they have no problem talking about everything you did great. Why do we do that? Why do we wait until someone's gone to speak on their greatness? If you want to highlight everything I've ever done wrong in my life, I don't need you in my life. I know what I've done wrong. I live with what I've done wrong. Hell, I sleep with what I've done wrong. Do you not think that when people do wrong, it does not resonate throughout their life of the wrongs they've done to someone, or what they've done to harm people in their life? That they need to be reminded of it every time they see you? Pause that for a minute. Think about that the next time when you run into somebody you haven't seen in a while and all you want to do is hold on to whatever they've done wrong. Let's speak about the greatness of who they are. That's part of the reason why we're having this conversation about Jackie O. There's something that someone had mentioned, someone has said, or the negativity that she's heard. And I may be speculating, let's be real, that caused her to want to change who she is through surgery. And then we sit back, send prayers and condolences, send bouquets of flowers. Thank you, OT, for the flowers, my brother. Send bouquet of flowers. But we wait to do these things when your casket's sharp. Tell people and acknowledge the right that people are doing every day. Just because. And the thing is, when we do things for people, we don't do it for the accolades. But it's good to hear someone acknowledge that you're doing all right, that you're different than you used to be, that they can see a change in you from who you used to be to who you are now. But we never hear it. Because they wait until we're dead and gone to tell you how great you are, how much of an impact you had on their life, how great you were in their life, and you never hear it. Goes back to the male vulnerability. Tell your brothers you love them. Tell your sisters you love them. Tell your family you love them. Tell them how you appreciate them. because we're quick to jump to the negatives of what somebody may do to us. I don't appreciate how you spoke to me. When's the last time you told somebody, man, I appreciate you having this conversation with me? It really opened my eyes to some things that resonated with me in this conversation. When's the last time you did that? When's the last time you thanked somebody for just checking on you? When's the last time you just checked on somebody and their mental well-being? It ain't hard. It's not hard. What makes it hard is we don't want to show vulnerability. We don't want to show for some reason that we're human. We got to be hard. It's okay to be hard. It's okay to be hard in the situations you need to. If we were as hard against the injustices done against us as a people as we are against each other for something we may perceive as someone doing us wrong, most of these conversations we wouldn't even have to have. Most of these conversations we would not even have to have. If you do right, no one remembers. If you do wrong, no one forgets. No one forgets. We got to do better, y'all. We got to do better. Let's go ahead and wrap this up for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. Another show. Look here. I enjoy doing this every Saturday morning. Don't get me wrong, it's hard getting out of bed on Saturday morning. I like to sleep in it once in a while, but I appreciate you guys tuning in, listening to what I have to say, listening to what's going on in the world so I can bring you this information. As I mentioned about the politics, y'all gonna get tired again, but we need to talk about these things. I don't like talking about them, but at the same time, we have to talk about them. And there's a book I'm reading right now by Roland Martin called White Fear. The book is called White Fear. And it talks about the fear of white people, specific white people, certain white people, who fear us as black folks, or the people of color. Let's talk black and brown folks becoming the majority in this country. When you look at your politics and the politicians and who we're putting in offices and all these things, you need to be cognizant that there's some who are in a fearful mode right now and fear that if they're not in power, that they're losing it all. We have to get to the point that we let them recognize that our voices matter, where we stand matters, all those things matter. And once I finish with this book, I would suggest most of you, if you read, order it off Amazon. White Fear. White Fear. And I think it's White Fear, the Browning of America, or something to that extent. I can't remember the full title, but I'm into it. Y'all need to read more. You need to start reading more. You need to start reading more. That's all I'm going to say. Read. James Battle, show that love today because you might not be here next year or even tomorrow. I love you all. Same to you, bro. Appreciate you. Love you. Deborah Harris, thank you, sir. Stay blessed. You do the same thing. Well, let me go ahead and sign off here. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely, keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week, and I appreciate y'all tuning in again. Thank you. I love y'all, and I'm out. Peace.